Good morning, my Saturday morning connectors. It's a great day. It's a great morning. It's a great year. It's a great moment. Keep believing, keep hoping, keep hope alive. Live from the new studios. The Marketplace Connection is on the air. I want you to leap into your destiny, upgrade your thinking, expand your capacity because God wants to give you more. You are more than what you have become. Well, good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Marketplace Connection on this glorious and Saturday morning. I am so happy to have you here again. I am your host, Connector Linda Hunt, and I am so happy that we have another day that the Lord has made, and we do rejoice and we're glad in it. So you should be glad that we are here another day with all the things that are going on in the world, but yet we are still here and we are glad about it. I have a wonderful, wonderful broadcast that is planned for you today. So I want you to click, like, share, tell a neighbor, tell a friend that the Marketplace Connection is on the air. And as I tell you every Saturday, leap into your destiny, upgrade your thinking, because God wants to give you more. You have to expand your capacity to receive all that God has for you in this season. And I'm in that season, and I'm telling you, my expansion. I say that, and I prophesied that to myself every Saturday that I say that to you, because I am in the middle of an expansion. And when you're in the middle of an expansion, it's like birth pains. You know that things are moving, things are expanding. And so, but you have to just be confident in what God is doing in your life. And whatever it is, just go with the flow. Just go with whatever God is doing. I know it might seem like it's God. I don't know if I can do this. Do I have the strength to be able to pull it together, all of the things that you're putting on my plate? But you got it. I want you to be encouraged this morning, because I'm encouraging myself to know that I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. So I tell you today, I have two wonderful ladies that are here. We're going to be talking about a very sensitive subject. We're going to be talking about not only just domestic violence, but we're going to be talking about, molestation and all of the things that happen to some of us when we go through just different things in life. Life has its ups, its downs, it has its good, it has its bad. But the best part about it is when you come out not even smelling like smoke. You go through the fire, as the word of God says, you go through the rain, you go through the flood, but you come out not smelling like smoke. How do you do that? With the grace of God.
Today, I am here to talk to you about a different type of story, surviving depression. That's right, it's not popular, it's a taboo subject. It's not the topic that everybody probably wants to talk about, but it is more and more common than people would like to put on. So let's talk about a little girl from Chicago, Illinois. There was a little girl. She was born to a mother who was 14 years old. Rumor had it she was supposed to be aborted at birth, but her grandmother forbid it. So she came into the world, born to this 14-year-old mother, but in a sense, she always felt unwanted, unqualified, unneeded, all of those things that the person who had her didn't pour into her. And so growing up, this little girl was raised by her grandmother for the most part, because her mother was 14 years old. And so by the age of 7 and 8, she had been molested multiple times by a family member. So because she was raised by a 14-year-old mother and her grandmother, and then she was molested by the age of 7 and then 8, she did not know her purpose. She did not know her passion. She didn't know that she had purpose. Because she was supposed to be aborted, many people told her she was unplanned, she was unwanted. And so she grew up thinking a lot of times that she was unwanted and she was unneeded, because that's what she was told. And so This little girl eventually moved from Chicago, Illinois to Detroit with her mother, and by the time she was 13 years old, she had not only been molested by a male hairdresser, but she had also lost her virginity to a boy. And so the level of self-esteem was broken. The level of self-esteem was never there. She never heard, I love you. She never heard, you're beautiful. She never heard, you're pretty and you're worth it. She never heard all of the things that we tell our daughters and our sons that they should wait. She never heard those things. So she was left to assume anything but.
She has a book out that we're going to be discussing this morning called Hush. And then my other guest I have with me is Tony or Tonyelle Platter McBride, and called Tony as well. That's my daughter's name, so I love that name. And so I have these two wonderful women, and we're going to be talking about some things that is like the elephant in the room. You know, when you have the family reunion and when you have the various gatherings of, particularly in our culture, our black families, it's a subject, it's a taboo. We don't always talk about some of the things that have happened to some of our family members because of embarrassment, and a lot of things we just think that not talking about it is going to go away, but it doesn't go away. And a lot of times behind all of the things that we are trying to hide, we have skeletons in the closet that eventually is going to come out, and people are still going to have to deal with it. And so today we are going to deal with it. We're going to talk about it because we want you to be healed. We want you to be whole, okay? And the only way you're going to get whole, what you don't reveal, you can't heal. I'm going to say that one more time. What you don't reveal, you cannot heal. You have to talk about it. You've got to deal with it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and you have to reveal it, bring it out in the open so it can be healed. So today we are, that's right, give it out. Give it up, that's right. So thank you, ladies, for joining me today. I am so excited. I have been trying to get this wonderful lady on my broadcast for a while, and we are here today, and I am so happy to have both of you. And we are going to be talking about, I named this segment called The Whispers of the Enemy. Okay? Yes. The whispers of the enemy. And that's what it is. The enemy is always whispering in our ears and trying to tell us that we're not capable of this, we can't do that, making us feel that we're not competent, we're not good enough, we're not pretty enough, we're too this, we're too that. And so this is how the enemy keeps us in this, just in this state of just keeping us stuck. You know, we're in a cycle and we can't seem to get out. And so all of us have things that we have dealt with in life. But we're going to put the enemy to shame today because we're going to be talking about some of the things that you ladies have gone through. So I just want, again, to welcome my guests, Tanita and Tony. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I certainly appreciate it. So we're going to talk
Thank you for having us.
Yes, you're welcome. We're going to be talking about first with Tanita, and then we're going to be just kind of dialoguing today, okay? And anything that you guys want to talk about, if I haven't hit it, please, let's just bring it up and let's just talk about it because I want my listening and viewing audience, they know on the Marketplace Connection that there's nothing off limits. I deal with all of the cultures of society, and so that's what we're going to be dealing with, and we're going to be talking about this subject, the whispers of the enemy, and how a lot of things that go on behind closed doors that people don't want to discuss, okay, and especially molestation. So let's talk about it. So Tanita, we'll start with you. You were tormented, as I said, the whispers of the enemy, born to a mother that was 14 years old,
Yes.
living with a praying grandmother. Thank God for that was able
Yes.
to pray you through. I'm sure being with a mother that's 14, just still a teenager herself, really hasn't
Right.
found out who,
Preteen. Yeah.
yeah, hasn't found out who she is, don't know her purpose. So how can she even show you, about life? Because she hasn't
That's right.
experienced enough life of her own. And so already you were coming into the world in a deficit. You know,
That's
you
right.
you coming into the world already at a disadvantage of having someone that is raising you at an early age herself, still a child herself, still has a childlike mind. So let's talk about it. After being molested at an early age, just tell me a little bit about my listening and viewing audience, a little bit about how that happened to you.
Absolutely. So thank you first and foremost, Linda, for this opportunity. It's an honor and a privilege to be the visionary author of Hush. Now Hush 1 and 2, we're actually launching Hush 2 this week, which includes some men. So I'm excited that the African American men are braving the storm and willing to speak out about that.
Yeah.
My personal story is that my first experience with molestation was with a 7-year-old female cousin. And so she would perform oral sex on me and then make me
Oh,
return the favor, of course. Now she's older than me, but she's not an adult. She's probably 4 or 5 years older than me. So if this was 7 or 8 for me, she might have been 13. But you
mm-hmm.
have to ask yourself, Linda, how did she know to do that even at
Yes.
12 or 13? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So, I realize now that it didn't just start with her, but my experience started with her. And then later on, when we moved from Chicago to Detroit, I had a male hairdresser. And back in the day, Linda, hairdressers set up shop in their basement. That was their shop. They didn't pay for
Right.
like a shop or a building. And so he had his salon in his basement of his home. And I always had the first appointment. I always had that Saturday morning, 7 a.m. appointment. And over time, my mother stopped going with me. She would drop me off at the door, make sure I got into the house, but then she would leave for 2 hours.
Mm.
So that left me very vulnerable to a
Right.
man who's coming downstairs at 7 o'clock in the morning from climbing out of bed, and there's nobody in the house but me and him.
Mm, mm, mm,
Yeah,
mm, mm. Wow,
yeah.
wow, wow. And you were how old at that time?
I with the male hairdresser about 13.
You was about 13 years old. My
Yeah.
goodness. And so were you able, after going through that, for how many years? I mean, how long was this period of time with this male hairdresser?
So that was probably a year. And then over time, he begged me not to tell, of course, like all predators do.
Right.
And and over time, I don't know why, but my mother just stopped sending me to that particular hairdresser. We just started going to another hairdresser.
Okay.
And really the only thing that stopped the molestation from the female cousin is that we moved. We migrated from Chicago to Detroit.
Okay.
So that could have been 2 or 3 years before we moved off and on because she was the babysitter. She was the older cousin.
Wow. So did you
Yeah.
ever
So,
reveal that to your mother at all at any point in time? Had you ever revealed that to your mom?
oh, not when I was young. I just revealed it to her when the movie War Room came out. I'll never forget.
Wow.
I was coming from the movie theater watching War Room, and I clearly heard Holy Spirit say, "You gotta tell her. You gotta tell
Wow.
her." Yeah,
So now you're
yeah.
married, you're grown, and you have
Oh yeah,
children
married,
yourself.
grown with my own children. Yeah, and my husband knew, and my mother didn't. Yeah,
Oh, wow. Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can identify with that. I mean, hey, I can tell my truth as well. From my daughter, I didn't know until she was grown and married. And really in the process at that time, separation and divorce from her first husband. And
Wow,
that's when I found out, that my daughter had been molested and had no idea that
wow.
that happened to her from my husband's cousin, brother, his older brother
Mm,
that would come and visit, and he was in the service, and he would come home, and he would come and visit, and had no idea, when we would leave and go out, and and I was young when I had her,
yeah,
and didn't really know, when we would leave, and he would always come and stay with us, and and that was
And that's
happening.
her uncle, right? That's her
Yeah,
uncle. So,
yes,
yeah.
yes. And I had no idea that that was happening until she was grown. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God, how could I have not known why? And you go through a period of, blame and, and you feeling bad about it, but I had no idea that that was going on. And so how many families that have the same thing where that is going on? And I'm sure in your book, all of the people that are writing those kind of stories about
Yes.
things that happen and no one knows, and
Nobody
even,
knows.
yeah, and even sometimes after they find out, it's like, okay, we can't talk about this. It's let's sweep it under the rug as if that
Sweeping
is
under
the
the rug.
answer, as if
Yes.
that is the answer to it, and it's
Well,
not.
it's the answer, but it's not the solution. It's an
Okay,
answer.
yeah, it
Yeah,
is,
it's an
yeah.
answer, but it's not the solution. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So you found yourself after that in a bit of during a time numerous identity crisis because of that. For
Oh,
example,
yes.
yeah, you didn't think you mattered, which led to depression. You didn't think you looked pretty enough. You was too dark. You was this. You was that.
Hmm.
Because all of this came out of all of that. You know how the enemy comes. He comes with a sack of things. It's not just this one thing. Okay, it
Right.
might have been molestation, but everything else
But
that
he
comes
comes
along
like
with it.
Santa Claus.
Come on,
Yeah.
come on, and he gonna unpack it.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
gonna unpack everything that comes along with it. So your identity crisis and not feeling like you matter, which led to depression. Tell us a little bit about that.
For sure. So, depression, suicidal thoughts, particularly in high school, which was after both the molestation of my female cousin and then the male hairdresser, just didn't want to live, didn't feel like I had purpose, didn't feel like I mattered. I grew up with a mother who provided but was not a nurturer. So, if
Mm,
you had shoes, you had food, you had clothes, that's how you know I love you. So I never heard I
wow.
love you. I never heard you're pretty, you're
Wow.
beautiful, you should wait. I heard you should wait and not have sex just because I told you so. But nobody ever
Mm,
told me you're worth the wait or you're beautiful or you should save your body, for your marriage night or any of those things. None of those things. So by the
wow.
age of 14, of course, I was promiscuous, just like my mother had been at 14.
Right.
And it was like her worst nightmare. It was her worst
Mm,
nightmare. So
mm,
then I got to college. Once I got to college, identity crisis again. I get involved with women and men. It's not just
mm-hmm.
men now, it's women. Because
Okay.
you go to college with people who are from all over the world. So
Mm-hmm.
you're introduced to some things you've never been introduced to. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was willing to try almost anything because I had
Mm.
been exposed to so much early on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, once that spirit, and that's what it is,
Hmm.
that spirit that enters in, and it takes you in so many directions because of the fact that now you have become promiscuous. It's that promiscuous spirit that has
Right.
taken over, has taken root, and it leads you in so many directions. And you wonder when you finally wake up and you say, "How did I get here?" You don't even
Right.
realize what you're dealing with. You don't even realize that
Right.
it's a spirit because it's nothing that you can really see, but you know it's there. You
It's
know
there.
it's there, and it's just like it's going on and on and on. And I mean, and thank God for having sometimes spiritual advice, or you have a pastor or something that you can finally, and that might happen years later. When you
Years
go
later.
through, yeah,
Yeah.
you go through deliverance, it might be 20, 30 years later.
Right.
I'm just ordered a book where Oprah Winfrey has a new book out called "What Happened to You," and it's
Ooh.
yeah, and it's not. We ask the question when we see people acting out, and we say, "What's wrong with them?" But she said, "No, the question is, what happened to them?"
What happened to them?
Yeah,
Hmm.
because a lot of times the things that we're dealing with as adults, and you see people acting out in a certain way, it's because of things that happen in
In
childhood
childhood.
traumas.
That's right.
That's it. And we come into our marriages, we come into our relationships with all of that baggage
Your baggage. Hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
from both sides. So it's not
Oh, I know
about,
I did.
yeah, okay, me too. And it's not about, what's wrong with them. It's like what happened to them. So
What
and
happened?
that causes you to dig a little deeper and even have a little more empathy, for somebody that's
That's
going
right.
through that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So thank God you had a praying grandmother, but you always felt like something was missing. What was that something that you felt was missing?
So I've never met my biological father. So at times it's hard for me to even, let me say this. My grandmother was religious, but I don't believe that she had a strong foundational relationship with Christ, like I do today.
Okay.
And I say that because many of the promises in the Word of God she never obtained. She never obtained. So yes, she went to church. She served on all the boards. She paid her tithes. She gave offering. All of those things. But also me not having the father in the home was like that missing piece of. It even affects the way that I have a relationship with God, because if I'm going to see him as father, but I've never had a father, what if my natural father walked away? What makes me believe a God that I can't see is never going to leave me, never going to forsake me, because that's his promise. So, it definitely played a big role in my relationship with God. So the lack of a father, and then, growing up, my grandmother was my sole provider, but she was also abused physically and I'm sure sexually by her husband. So my grandfather died when I was maybe 3 or 4, so I didn't even have him in the home. So I'm in a home with basically women, my mother and my grandmother.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I tell you, the fiber of all that goes on in families and things that go on, I'm telling you, it is something that, it just can go on generation after generation. And thank God that you came into having a relationship that you can keep your daughter. You can keep
Right.
your children from a lot of things that you went through because of the fact that now you know how to deal with it. You know how to
Yes.
talk to
Yes.
them. You know that you
Yes.
can't.
And me and my husband
Yes.
are intentional about saying it stops with us.
Okay.
It stops with us. It won't go past us.
That's it.
And
Hey,
we
the buck
we tell
stops
our
here.
children,
That's it.
yeah, we tell our children what we've been through, what we've overcome.
Yeah.
I'm crystal clear with my children what's happened to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Tony, tell me a little bit about you, and you're having a empowering passion for young people. And is that because of some of the things that you have gone through in your life? Is because you have that passion?
Most definitely. Most
Okay.
definitely.
Okay.
And that was, that's one of the things, one of the gifts that God has gifted me with is being able to connect with young people and be able to connect with people who are at a disadvantage, or those who aren't able to help themselves at the time. I work in mental health. Have worked in mental health and have worked in public, worked with the public for a very long time. I
Okay.
ran numerous recreation centers in DC, and provided a whole lot of different programs for them. So yeah,
Okay.
it stems from what I've gone through.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about that. What are some of the things
So
that you've encountered?
So, I was privileged to write a piece in the book Hush, and my piece was called Broken Pieces, and then it was a story of forgiveness and of understanding and forgiveness. I had come to a point in my life where I needed to take charge of me, and I needed to learn to understand why these things happen, to try to understand the people who mishandled me, who mistreated me. I needed to understand why I was mistreating myself. And so, I had been, my first encounter, I had been molested by the age of 9 by an extended family member. And to this day, we see each other. We still don't talk about it. And I've never discussed it. I just happened to write it in my book. And then it went from that to having someone in our neighborhood, in my dad's neighborhood. It was a gentleman in our neighborhood, a very nice gentleman to me, and everybody else who knew him. But my dad and my mom knew things about him that I didn't know. So when we talk about back then, your parents told you things, and they warn you not to be at this place or not to go around this person, but they never told you the full story or the full reason why. And not telling the full reason or telling the full story, that leads you into a false sense of security. And at the time, my mom, she was very transient. She was in and out of our home. My dad didn't live with me, but he didn't live far away. I lived in a home with my grandmother and my uncle, who raised me and my brother. And I did not feel the love that I, at the time, thought that I should have as a child. Although my parents, like I said, they were back and forth, and I could see them, and we would do things together. It never was a full-time love.
So this person that they didn't want you to go around was the person that molested you?
Yes, ma'am. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So that's my dad had given a stern warning. My dad was one of those men who told you, if he told you he was going to do something, he definitely was going to follow through on it. And my dad had happened to see me, and we have a bakery. We have a local
Okay.
bakery that everybody goes to. I'm
Okay.
in the local bakery one day, and Mr. Whitmore is there, and we're talking, and he's like, "You always get the same thing. Why don't you try so and so, so and so?" So as we get ready to get into this conversation, my dad walks in the bakery, and my dad has the look of death, and he's looking him in his eye, and he's telling him, "I don't ever want to see you around my daughter again.
Wow.
If I catch you around my daughter, I'm going to kill you." And my dad meant it. And how we ended up in the encounter was through two friends of mine. Unbeknownst to all of us, my two friends, I go with them to their uncle's house, and who comes to the door? Mr. Whitmore is their uncle. So we end up
Wow.
going in, and they were going to get money. We would go skating in our neighborhood. We had the local skating ring. We had the movie theater, and those were the things that you did on Saturdays. You either went to the skating ring or you went to the movies. And they went to get money to go, and I was with them. And when he opened the door, we both looked at each other, and I'm young. So I'm not going to get talked about by my friends, because I'm like, my mom, my dad say I can't go around. So I'm going to go in on them with my friends. And I did. And we had a good time. Nothing happened. He seems to be a very nice person to me. And then the following weekend comes up, and I was to meet them there. I'm sitting outside the apartment building, and I'm waiting for them, and they don't show up for a long time. But he ended up showing up. And he's like, well, come on upstairs. If they told you to meet over here, they'll be here. And I'm there, and we're just in there. We're talking and eating. And I'm always having conversations with, older adults. And I watch some of the same things that they watch. So it wasn't anything,
Yeah, alarming.
different.
Already.
It wasn't anything alarming. So I noticed I had been there too long, and I wanted to make an excuse. So I went to the bathroom, and I was like, I was going to come out and say, I didn't feel good. I needed to go home, da 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 da. And when I came out, he was fully unclothed and standing there ready.
Oh my
Yes.
God.
So when you are young, you don't know what to do. Yes, he's nice. He was nice, but he's standing here in this position with no clothes on, fully ready, and you are like, who am I going to tell this to? I had no business being here. I was forewarned, and there is no way I can tell anybody. If I act like I want to fight, I don't know how he would react. So I went along. I went along with what he.
So
with
yours
what he-
wasn't molestation; it was rape.
Pretty much. Well, the molestation came earlier. I was molested by a family member.
Right.
Earlier on, but for him, it was never penetration. It was always oral, It was
Okay.
always a it was a true manipulation game. Um,
Okay.
that was his way. He promised that he would be, he would be gentle and he wouldn't do anything to hurt me. He kept his promise.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, when you're young and you don't understand, and your body is going through all
Yep.
of these emotions and
Yes.
changes,
Yes.
and later on, when you get older, you find out that what you were experiencing was pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
What you
Mm-hmm.
were experiencing out of having a lack of, out of being abandoned, what you what you took, what he did was he used that whole thing. And when you're abandoned and when you don't feel loved, you misconstrue and you take it as, this is love,
Mm-hmm.
somebody who cares about me. And
Mm-hmm.
it lasted for about 2 years. Lasted for
Wow.
about 2 years.
Wow. 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 So he was a known predator in the
He
neighborhood.
was a known predator. He was a known predator.
And
Later
that,
on,
wow.
when
Go
I
ahead.
grew up, I found out from my two friends who didn't show up on that day. I happened to run into them as we got older, as I grew up, and I asked them about that, and they was like, "Oh, we thought you knew about him. That really wasn't our uncle." So he preyed on those two as well. He
Wow.
preyed on those two as well.
Mm, mm,
So,
mm.
and my mom didn't find out about it until I wrote into the book, and I gave her the book to read,
Really?
and she called me and she said exactly who the person was, and she said, "I should have just told you." She said, "You were mature enough to understand, and I should have just told you."
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
that's why
Yep.
we have to stop keeping secrets from our kids.
That's it.
We
That's
have to
it.
stop
Absolutely.
not having those. We have to start having those uncomfortable
That's
conversations
it.
with our children at an
Yes.
early age. At
Absolutely,
an early
absolutely.
age.
Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
even families that have babies out of wedlock, and
Hmm.
we don't want to talk about that. We don't want to talk about who, because I know that happened in my family. Two cousins, they were brothers and didn't know that this uncle, that had raped the other aunt, and and it always caused confusion, but we as kids didn't know what was going on because it was always bickering and arguing between my mother and her sisters. And
Right?
we didn't know what was going on because this was the skeleton that was in the closet, and it never died because they
Hmm.
never dealt with it. See,
Right.
it's not going to go away, and it's not going to die until
No.
you deal with it, and everybody being honest about it. So I tell you, I applaud you, Tanita, for doing what you did, and even now taking it to another level. Now that you're getting men, and
Absolutely.
men don't really talk about those things, because they want to be appear as being strong. They don't want to be looked at as though maybe people will think I'm a homosexual, because they had no control over that happened to them. And and so it plays on their sexuality as being a man,
Yes.
very much so. Mentally, I think more so, even though women, we deal with it emotionally, but I think for a man, that is really, I mean, a real thing to deal with them in terms of their own sexuality. So I applaud you. What, Tanita, can you tell us your why for really doing this? What was it that really, other than your own personal experience, what was your why for really writing or wanting to do this anthology? What was it?
For sure. So I'll say, literally, the Holy Spirit said to me, start shining a light on dark places. Start shining a light on dark places. And the only way I know how to do that is I got a voice, I know how to write, I can publish a book. So it's going to be a book. The Lord also has me working on a book related to addiction to porn and masturbation, not for men, but for women, because after
Mm-hmm.
molestation, you've now opened the door to those things. So the things that
That's
the
it.
church doesn't really talk about, and I don't know
Yes.
that the traditional church is even equipped to talk about it, because it's like, how do we get rid of the sting of molestation for decades and years and rape if it's going on from the pulpit to the pew and everybody knows and we just cover it up?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that was my why, is to give a voice to those who have remained silent for so many years.
Yeah. So how did you get
Yeah.
the men to join?
So um so I actually did a series in August with 6 or 7 men. It was Facebook Live
Yeah.
videos.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
because somebody asked me in July when we released Hush One, they said, why don't men ever speak out about this? So I said, well, let me find some men. And so we started interviewing the men. And 3 of those men who were on those segments, they're on my YouTube page as well. We recorded them. But 3 of those men are now in the book that we will release this weekend. So they are part of Hush 2. And then the Lord said the next book will be all men. So I don't know if you followed, there's a young man that went to the University of Michigan. He's like camping out at the president's home and all of that because of the molestation that happened to him and many other players during his time playing for University of Michigan. So I feel like more and more men are speaking out about it now.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
because other men have come forward. You know, it has to be the football players, the basketball players. It has to be the celebrities first before the everyday man comes forward.
Wow. Well, that is powerful. I tell you, when I did see one of the segments when you were interviewing on Zoom, I think you had a Zoom meeting
Yeah.
with it, and I did watch it. And I'm telling you, some of these people, I mean, they're professional people. Some of them
Yes.
are in ministry,
Pastors.
pastors, prophets.
Yes. Yes.
And and I mean just every walk of life, and to look at them now and to think, that even some of them have been suffering silently.
Right.
They have been going through it and don't want anyone to know because they're embarrassed about it. But it
Yes.
has to be dealt with. I mean, yes, it happened. Yes, it is not something that you want to talk about every day, but it has to be dealt with because in order for you to be whole, you've got to
That's
go
right.
to the root.
Yes.
The root of the tree.
Gotta go to the root.
That's it. You got to go to the root of it. And a lot of things that we have that we deal with in our emotions and the way we respond to things is because we have not gotten to the root of the issues of some of the things that we deal with in life.
Yes.
And so
Absolutely.
once we go to the root of it and we can deal with it, we can be honest about it, we can be open about it, then the enemy can't whisper anymore to you.
That's right. No, I'm like, sound the alarm loud and clear. Then there's no more whispers.
That's it. That's it. He has nothing to control over you. He has no
Yeah.
control. He's lost his control. So he's going to move on. Okay, now she exposed me. Because that's
That's
what
right.
you got to do. You
I
got
always tell people,
Yeah.
I always tell people, don't wait till you get to the top for all of your bad stuff to be exposed. So I specialize in telling on myself so the enemy can't tell on me.
Come on now. Come on. Well, you do a good job, and you've done a good job, and I thank you, Tony, for being honest and open about what you dealt with. So just before we go, tell us a little bit about your why you felt that it was time for you to reveal this openly and publicly.
Yeah. So my why was because I needed to be fully healed. I needed to be fully whole. And I needed to be able to speak for those who aren't able to speak. Those who aren't able to, who want to tell it. And a lot of the people that I dealt with, they needed to have a person like me
Yeah.
to see that I can be transparent and to see, that I was hurt at one point in time, but now I'm healed
Amen.
and now I'm whole.
Amen.
So I needed to write this. I definitely needed to write it for me,
Okay.
for
All right.
completion.
Yes, that's it. That's it. And
For
once you've
completion.
done it, you do. You feel the difference. You feel the weight that was on you. There's nothing that the enemy can use to hold against you because
Yes.
now you've exposed him, and and all of the things that he tried to do, and and it deals so much with your character of who you are. I mean the core of who you are when things happen like that. Because
Yes.
of how he makes you feel less than a woman, maybe being in marriage and not even being satisfied, of having normal sex, just the way God would have intended it, and not having the lust of having, to have sex, but to just have the love of it, because that's the way God created it. It is to be an act of love, not of lust, because of the fact of things that is going on in your body, because of, having something that was done to you like this, that really caused you to, lust and have traumas, or even not even being able to fully be satisfied by your husband or, by your mate, because of things that have gone on in your life. So I applaud both of your women for being part of my viewing and listening audience. And we definitely are going to be looking forward to Nita, to your next Hush book, and particularly for the men. I am very much looking forward to that, because I know they need it just as bad, or even more so, I believe, for a man to be able to come and be really transparent and forward about what is happening in their life. So I applaud you two ladies, and I will be looking forward. Now, this book is out, and where can they get it? Tell us, where can they find the book? How can they find it?
So actually, Hush 1 and 2 are available already. So they're available in ebook form on Amazon. If you just search Hush 1 and 2. The subtitle is Breaking the Cycle of Silence Around Sexual Abuse. That's the subtitle. Okay. If you want the print books, you can get them from our website, soitiswritten.net or tanitajohnson.com.
Okay. All righty.
Yep.
Okay. Well, we will make sure we have all that information up on the screen and everything, and people will know how to get that information. And if they want to be a part of it, what if somebody wants to be a part of it? Can they get in touch with you if they, want to be a part of it?
They absolutely can. They absolutely can. So we're going to open it up for men who would like to be a part of part 3. We'll open that up December 1st. They can email me at info@soitiswritten.net.
Info@soitiswritten. Okay.
.net.
.net. Okay. Okay. And if are you going to do another one with women, or a mixture of both?
Eventually, yeah. Eventually, but I'm getting these men out here first.
Okay, that's right. Get them while they can. Get them while you can.
I'm telling you.
That's right. Yeah. While the water is flowing, let them jump in. Well, thank you, ladies, so very much. Come on, give them up. Give it up, my producer, for these wonderful women. Yes, thank you so very much for being a part of my viewing and listening audience. And we will see you all very, very soon. And you let us know. I think you got a book signing coming up. Is that is that
absolutely
okay? So
it'll be Friday the 5th.
Friday the 5th of this month. Of November.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Friday the 5th of November. So if you want to go to the book signing, you want to get a book, go to our website and you can get that information about where it is, the address, and all of those things. Okay. So thank you for being a part of the Marketplace Connection. I am very much looking forward to seeing and hearing from you all. Tony, thank you so much for joining us as well. You. And you all have a wonderful day. This has been the Marketplace Connection. We're going to take a commercial break, and then we're going to come back with the second half. So we want you to stay tuned, click like, share, and because this is information that I want to get out. I want people to know about this. I want people to know about this book. I want people to know about what is being told now, what is being uncovered.
No matter who you are, no matter where you come from, there is a force that unites us all. Join the movement and let your lips do the talking with Aide Cosmetics, available on aidecosmetics.com.
It's time for your healing. Introducing the Healing Station, home of the incredible Healing Station oils, featuring the #1 biblical anointing oil. Be healed with 7 different oil blends and beautiful prayer shawls to enhance your time with the Lord. Need prayer? Visit the website at myhealingstation.com with a live prayer chat. For more info, call 815-483-9874. Visit the website at myhealingstation.com or on Facebook and Instagram. Get your healing with the Healing Station.